agenda item.
Could I make a suggestion?
So the stack is for agenda items. We're not even to that yet.
I think it would make life a lot easier to deal with the hottest topics last. That way we get
you can make a flash
done, and the hottest topics could be left for people who want to
There you go.
The least hottest topics should go first.
You told me to shut the fuck up.
In organization, how we get through the agenda.
So we're not going to talk about violence until the end?
No, violence. Violence is still a few minutes. Just organization.
It's open right now. We're discussing the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, but can you do it by staff?
Yeah.
Sure. Why not?
Right? OLA process, staff, for example.
Yeah, it opens and then the stack happens.
No, actually.
Oh man.
So we could do a circle too. I'd rather a circle than a staff. That way it wouldn't voice their grievances.
Okay, so as of right now, unless anyone has any, well, you suggested that we put the more contentious topics at the end.
Yes.
So them being violence, validity of previous meetings, reverting to 60-member password holders, or more specifically what Leslie was saying, kind of paraphrase that, who gets the passwords, how they're distributed, sandbox, the validity of it. I wanted to say my issue in regards to the sandbox, it's only one
And then there's also
platform.
one across the street right there too.
There's other platforms, there's Instagram.
Okay.
No,
This
I'm saying
one, for
in
sure.
regards to how
It's
I wanted to
clear.
make it the agenda topic. Facebook itself is only one platform. The idea of Sandbox is an open group. It's an open group for a bunch of people. A lot of people have been invited. All those people in the Sandbox are not admin. There's other platforms. There's Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, the webpage. Those themselves don't have the same grouping or the ability to have a discussion like the Sandbox. So that's my issue with the Sandbox itself.
The social media team discusses everything, and the website has nothing to do with the social media team whatsoever. So.
Okay, so any suggestions as the order of the agenda?
Follow stack. Stack. Follow stack.
So I was on stack.
Okay, go ahead.
So,
It's Nikki and Sergey.
Yeah, but we're still operating stack. Anyway, don't ever tell her. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm telling
Okay, I can tell him not to tell me to shut the fuck up.
Right.
So, like, but I can really care less what he says. Anyways, so the idea of like discussing the validity of like the sandbox, or whether or not this group here could decide whether or not that poll that was issued in the sandbox is actually like moot. Because like actually we did decide and we consensus upon the fact that like the poll, that the polls that Alyssa would return the passcodes to the PMs, and that the decision to do what to do with those passcodes after would be pulled in the sandbox. Like that's it, right? So we can sit here and have this meeting and talk about what the fuck we want, but the reality is we do have a sandbox that is part of our process, and that needs to be carried out. And we decided in like the October 6th meeting that polls can't trump that like in meetings you can't trump polls that are sandbox. So yeah, so that was my kind of like I guess part of process of like the discussion. So we can have a circle jerk conversation if you want, but it's a waste of all of our time. And this meeting's invalid.
Oh my god.
oh, she's that.
Nikki?
Okay. So I guess following on from that, then my question would be, it was pulled in the sandbox that the sandbox polls.
I just cut it with something.
No, you should. 10 minutes to get back.
I don't cut.
No cross talk. Come on. Say again?
I don't know. I feel like with Candace starting the conversation, then we're probably just going to go to our first agenda item, which is how sandbox polls affect password distribution. We want to talk about that.
We're trying to figure out what words to take things down so that we reduce fights and we actually are productive. And I
Right.
think it's
So
very
we've
important to deal with stuff and hear people's opinions that we could agree with, so that we could build some momentum on issue on moving forward. And if we build momentum on moving forward on stuff that we can all agree with, and that we can make peace with each other, hopefully the peaceful momentum will carry into the more contentious items. That if we work on the stuff that we can work on well together.
Yeah, you're not on stack. I'm sorry. I appreciate what you're saying, though.
You're on stack. You're on stack.
So, since Candace opened the conversation and it is one of our agenda items, can I take temperature on maybe just starting the first discussion topic about how passwords are distributed in polls on the sandbox or in person? Can we start that conversation? I think Candace opened it up by saying that there was a poll online which said that the passwords would be returned to the password holders. Afterwards, all passwords would be distributed through polls in the sandbox.
No, that's not. It was that the decision what to do with those passwords, to do which will be decided in a poll on the sandbox.
How many were people on stack?
Alyssa and Sergi.
Okay, so
They have to finish it.
let me get on stack.
Thank you. Alyssa?
I guess my question then is, when we had the meetings back last year, did we cover this topic, and what was the conclusion from those meetings? Does anybody remember?
Those meetings were pretty much a clusterfuck because the entire team quit. We had a meeting January 6th, we had a meeting January 13th, and then we had a meeting 2 weeks later. The first meeting was in Katuska's, the second meeting was at your house, the third meeting was back at Katuska's. The second meeting we decided that we would choose people from the room who had shown interest and shown up at the last meeting that wanted to be on social media. Since then, all of those people have quit or have been kicked off social media for not doing anything. And we have meeting notes. No, that's true. That's absolutely true, Benji. You're one of the people who did absolutely nothing. You tweeted 3 times, and it was really like us taking things seriously. Naomi left, Yara left within a week. Other people, like I'd have to look and see who all the people were, but the people who were consented in at that meeting, because we didn't have the sandbox yet. The sandbox was created on the second meeting, after the second meeting, because we had just a private workspace. We referred to it as the fishbowl, just joking around. We had a workspace that we just basically posted whatever anyone was telling us to post, and talking about it. And social media team at the time when this happened was 8 people, I believe, or 9 people. Sorry.
I guess it was my impression that the sandbox was a place that people could post content, and that content would get floated to the top based on votes, and then that content would get distributed across our platforms. I didn't think that the sandbox was a place where we made decisions about membership or passwords.
That was one of the initial issues. But what they decided, I believe the third meeting, was that it wasn't fair to have meetings where only like 14, 15 people were there, that we had to open it up to everyone in the sandbox. The problem being with the sandbox was people were added initially without knowing what it was for.
Right.
They were all added at once. And then only certain people since then have been allowed to add people. Like, I've never been able to add anyone to the sandbox. I've never been allowed to. Every single person that I've tried to add, except for 2 people, one was adding people back, were denied, just completely ignored and denied. So it was a very contentious thing from the very beginning, and really not the way we work. And we don't work but based on the content being pulled up or down. We work based on it being on consensus. As long as it's based on something we've consented on, or a group that we've already consented to work with, then we can post it. If not, then we have to see if it works in with our principle of solidarity, or explain to people why it doesn't, and explain why we can't, why it would have to go before the GA, or something such as that.
Right.
Basically we're the voice of the only consented voice of the GA as far as just posting content that's relevant.
So yeah, as you mentioned, we don't know how people are added to the sandbox. We also don't have a perfect process of how they're removed, right? Because some people are pulled out and some people are just popped off, right?
There's other issues with the sandbox.
Stack and just stop cross-talking?
Okay, sorry, next one back.
Who's
I'm
next on
done.
stack?
I'm just trying
Alyssa.
to figure out what's going on.
Alyssa?
Okay. So
I need to use the restroom. Can you take over, please?
it is consented that in the process that we could change guidelines in person what happened last week. People being upset about changing guidelines for the community of the sandbox is what happened last time, but yes, and so that community had guidelines brought in by a small group that met, and nobody knew they were going to do anything. Everybody that met the week before knew about this week's meeting, and it's a little ironic to me that people in OLASM who have posted both meetings to the Occupy LA page are calling these meetings illegitimate, which shows a real problem with the process. There are people who have been taken out of the sandbox with no poll, and to me the sandbox has become a completely illegitimate group. Because you have 4 people who have been taken out. Erica Herrera has been waiting to come in for over a week now, and has sent a request. So that space is being dominated by Tatiana or whoever that is. And so that, excuse me, please stop the crosstalk. And so that is a problem. The reason the passwords were held was because the page has been hacked several times. It happened right after Eric left the box and he wasn't an admin, and I felt uncomfortable returning them. And then again, after I didn't return them, unconsented content was put on the Facebook page by Beth, and it was brought up in the sandbox that divisive comments were made and that there wasn't consent for those comments to be put up. And so I feel I had very valid security concerns about what's been going on, and especially with people just getting kicked out by admins without any poll, without any process, because that's actually hierarchy. So the guidelines were changed at last week's meeting. Both meetings have been announced by OLASM. You can't decide that meetings are invalid because you don't want to show up. And as an inclusive group, this is in line with the principles of solidarity of Occupy LA to actually include people in the meetings that we have. So that is kind of what happened. Also, nobody ever posted fuck Beth. That never happened. There was no Dorner hack. Those things never happened on the page.
I have screenshots.
I'm sorry, please stop the crosstalk. People talk about process and they should probably try and respect it.
Don't lie.
Nobody ever posted fuck Beth on the page.
Yeah, they did. And then Joel was removed and things magically stopped.
Process.
That has been what has happened thus far. The security concerns continue because the group is just being dominated by whoever decides, oh, these people aren't going to have a voice.
Exactly. That's you.
That are in the group. And so if I was in any organization and things were hacked several times by the same team internally, that would be a legitimate security concern. And there wasn't anybody that has had a problem with that. And now we consented the week before last week that we would have people be elected admins at last week's meeting. And so now these password holders have been holding the passwords. And they have security concerns, which is why we're here.
Sergey?
Okay. I hear a lot of things that have decided long time ago. When things get decided, they get decided according to the needs and the people that is available. Those who participated at that time, it made sense for them to decide in such a way. One of the primary resources that an organization has is people. Now, there's people that want to do some work, want to do some activism, already warm waters, and they are way down by some decision that somebody says that somebody did sometime long time ago. But nobody shows up any papers or any evidence that there are such decisions being made. Where are the minutes of those times? Where are the screenshots? I don't see them.
LosAngelesGA.net consensus.
Where is a hard copy of that? I don't see a hard copy. I don't see a paper. I spent $10 today making copies of to pass it around. I spent my time to putting the copies together. I went and spend much more time to drive there and then pay the money and then come out because I had the hard copies. I don't see no hard copies, no reference of the decision. And even if it was done a decision, that's a decision that was done for the benefit then. We are here now. The question is, what are we going to do? Are we going to weigh down with some rule that happened 2012? Or are we going to go ahead and do what is appropriate today?
So you're saying you don't
Hold on,
care about
girlfriend talking. Who's respect?
Well,
Respect.
Leslie.
My turn? Okay. First of all, I'd like to point out that Benji invited people to leave if they didn't think this was a valid meeting. There's been a lot of implications here that I should have attended a meeting that last week that I didn't consider valid. Let me give you my reasons for not considering it a valid meeting. Okay, let's address that and get that off the table if we can. First of all, it was not noticed. Well, it was noticed in less than 12 hours on the Sandbox page. The notice went up at about 11:30 at night for a meeting at 11:30 the next morning. I had serious concerns, and there were people left off that list, notable ones. I had in fact received an invitation from Alyssa to come to a meeting from her personal page, but that list also was very selective in who was invited. 250 people were invited, and I have a list here of the people who weren't. That included Cheryl, AB3, Beth, Tatiana, Kelly, Bobby, Revo, George, Brian, Amari, DeLessie, Sean, and Kylene. All very active in the Sandbox and not invited. When I went back and looked at that meeting, I will tell you right now, the whole thing was framed as we and them, all the way through. Them is characterized as negative, untrustworthy, contrarian, posting divisive posts. We need to draw the line and tell them to get the fuck out. And they were referred to as the kids. They decided, I transcribed this from watching the videos. They decided to make decisions on a private page. They decided for in-person meetings to remove people, fully conscious, and said that out-of-town people wouldn't be able to defend themselves in face-to-face meetings. They agreed that if you don't come to a couple of meetings, you're removed for 2 weeks. That it has to happen face-to-face, that people don't need notice that they're being removed. They